Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing today? My name is Rebecca Stuchetz, and I'm part of the marketing team over here at Tech30. I would like to thank all of you for attending this webinar. Today, we have Cody Wiltrout, who will be giving a live presentation on the benefits of SolidWorks data management with Windchill. We also have Shannon Cisneros, who is a solutions consultant for Tech30. And just to remind you all, if you have a question at any time during this webinar, feel free to leave it in the question or chat box, and we will do our best to answer these questions at the end of the webinar. So with that being said, I'm going to be passing it over to Shannon now, who will give a little background of who Tech30 is and what we have to offer.
Thank you, Rebecca. Hello and good morning, everyone. As Rebecca stated, I'm Shannon Cisneros, the solutions consultant for Tech30. And as Rebecca mentioned, as we conduct this webinar, we encourage you to engage with us. So please ask questions and leave comments at any time on the sidebar of the GoToWebinar panel. If you have any questions or comments that don't relate to the specific topic today, feel free to ask those questions in the sidebar panel as well. We can address them in a follow-up email or future webinars. And please view Tech30 as a channel to get your feedback to the PTC Creo product managers and development team. Next. So first and foremost, Tech30 is a value-added reseller of PTC software products. Secondly, Tech30 is an engineering services company that helps engineering companies do engineering. We do this with tools from PTC and other OEMs to help our customers make the most of those tools through training and engineering services. Next. Our company was established in 2002. We are located in Mission Viejo, California, and we have over 90 plus employees with over 50 plus engineers. We are distributed around the U.S., meeting the needs of all of our customers. Personally, I'm located in the San Diego area, and I represent the Western U.S. Tech30 has a small business status and 4 business units. PTC software, additive manufacturing, 3D printers, and engineering services. We offer a broad range of mechanical engineering services to our customers, and we are an extension to your engineering staff, providing support and skills that you may not have in-house, and we can provide the additional expertise when you need it. Next. As a PTC value-added reseller, these are the software solutions that we focus on from PTC. Next. As I mentioned earlier, we also have a broad portfolio of 3D printers from companies that we represent. You can have a look at the technologies on this page, and I'm not going to go into detail here, but just keep in mind that we focus on industrial use cases for 3D printing, both in plastics and metals. We help our customers make additive manufacturing become a part of their finished product. So if you have any interest in this area, please contact me after the webinar. Next. PTC's Windchill is a product lifecycle management system for mechanical and electrical CAD data, as well as documents, text files, PDFs, and other related data. It can manage not only Creo files, but files from other CAD applications such as SolidWorks, CATIA, NX, Solid Edge, and Inventor. It is used to manage the versions and revisions of all of these types of files in one application. It is a central location for a product's bill of materials and can transform it into a manufacturing BOM or service BOM. It enhances product management, quality, and can manage suppliers as well. Next. The Windchill is a single source of truth for product data and processes. It manages a repeatable process through the product lifecycle. It maintains quality throughout the process, and it drives productivity. So in this webinar, Cody will inform you of how SolidWorks can work with Windchill. It is all yours, Cody.
All right, thank you very much, and nice to be here with everyone. As mentioned, I'm going to be talking to you today about how PTC can help you to work with SolidWorks data, whether that be from a CAD perspective or from a PLM perspective, and what we really offer there. So starting off from the CAD side, we have what's known as the Unite technology. The Unite technology is meant to help people with, number one, being able to give people non-Creo data. Sometimes suppliers provide non-Creo data and you need to be able to bring that in, and we want you to have ways to work with that. On the other side, some customers need non-Creo data, and you need to be able to output in something that they can look at and be able to open and work with. As well as the fact that just in general, large corporations often have a hodgepodge of CAD and different tools to work with, and it can be difficult to go between those different tools. Traditionally, you can do outputs as neutral files and try to import things, but that does not always work perfectly. There can be failures, or it can just be slow, especially if you're importing a large file. And then you have a difficult time keeping your revision controls on the model because it's outside of your tool and outside of your system. And there's also the costs associated with maintaining all of those different softwares and having people who are trained to use them. So the solution that PTC came up with to that on the CAD side is the ability to consolidate and collaborate using Unite technology. Starting off, Unite gives you the ability to do the basic import functionality that you've always seen with Creo, but we're always working on it, always trying to improve it so that there's less failures, it's a faster transition and easier to use. But what it also then gives you is the ability to open up directly SolidWorks, CATIA, NX, and from Creo 5 and onward, Inventor files. And so you can open those up natively without having to do any conversion. You can also, with the collaboration capabilities, save as those different extensions with SolidWorks, CATIA, NX, and give an output in one of those formats. The idea being that then you can consolidate down on the tools that you need to use to be able to work with these different file formats. On the consolidation side, this really starts with that import and open capability. The import is fairly traditional to what you might be used to seeing, where you're going to bring it in and it's going to convert it to that Creo file format. On the other side, if you choose to do an open, it's going to bring it in and just leave it as is. Now, if you do want to make changes to a component, it is going to have to convert that individual component, but you can convert those on demand as you need to so that you're not spending a lot of time converting the entire assembly for no reason, as well as, again, helping to prevent any conversion failures by only converting the important components that you need to. And so you'll see that when you start at a component, it will convert the assemblies around that, but other than that, it will leave everything else in its native format, and you can have a mixed CAD bill there. On the other side with the collaboration, that's when we get into the ability to not only open those formats, but be able to push updates down whenever there is a new version, as well as to save off in those different file formats. In the update, it's going to start out initially the same, where you're just going to put that open in, but you can use constraints to then be able to push updates. So if there is a change, you can just push the new version of that SolidWorks or NX or CATIA file and have it automatically update in that same kind of constrained location that you put it inside of your assembly without having to go through and reconstrain everything yourself by hand. On the save as side, similar to the open as, it's just going to allow you to take those formats and save off as whatever format you would like. And that does mean that you could open, for example, a CATIA file and save it as an NX file, or a SolidWorks file and save it as a CATIA file, or the Creo file to any of those as well. So a lot of flexibility there in being able to save off in those different formats. Now, going past just CAD, on the PLM side, we also have further capability to be able to work with SolidWorks data. So Windchill is CAD agnostic and does give you the ability to use its functionality, whether you're using Creo or not. And it does embed directly into SolidWorks, giving you flexibility with how you would like to use that tool, and allows you to just do all of your normal functionality there, and just like as if it were in Creo, be able to upload that information and manage all of it. And you can do enterprise visualization with the SolidWorks data as well, and utilize all the functionality that you've come to use inside of Windchill for other types of data. So we'll go ahead and transition over to some demonstrations here, and we will start on the Unite side. Starting with Unite here, if we were a company that made razors, but maybe we don't make the kind of motors for these, I might be bringing that in from someone else. So I could pick a file type, whether that be SolidWorks, NX, CATIA, Inventor, pick whichever file it is that I want, bring that in, and start using my constraints to place that inside of the model. Now you could use a traditional constraint, or if you use advanced assembly extension, you can also use some of the more advanced constraint capabilities using things like copy geometry to recognize where those are going to be. But now that we have our outside part inside of here, we just want to start bringing in our Creo components and modeling it into this assembly. So you can see when we brought it in, we do not have to convert it there. It's still in that NX format for the motor, and it's going to stay that way unless we choose to make a change to it. So unless we actually need to make a physical change to the model, it's going to leave it as is. And when you would go to check it into Windchill, Windchill can manage that as a multi-CAD assembly. Now, to that point as well, if you do need to make changes, you can, of course, use some of the functionality with flex modeling to be able to still work and make some easy edits to those parts. When you do bring those in, as you can see in our assembly tree here, or in our model tree, excuse me, here, that it does not give you all of the features for those parts. So just to be clear there, if you open up a SolidWorks part natively, because we do not use the same kernel to generate the geometry, we cannot give you the full feature tree, but we can give you the ability to recognize features using flexible modeling and still be able to make edits to those. In our case for now, looking at this sheet metal piece, we want to align this around those prongs and put some cuts in there for the back of the motor to come through. And to do that, we're going to go ahead and, as I mentioned, utilize that copy geometry functionality. And then if there are any changes, it will be very easy for us to go downstream and push those updates. So we're just going to copy the geometry of the actual prong itself and then bring in a user-defined feature with a cutout that's going to align to that. Now, because we're using the copy geometry, and that copy geometry is from the non-Creo part, if that changes, it's going to recognize how it changed and where it moved so that it gives you more flexibility and easy updates around that. And of course, you can always use basic Creo functionality when working with these as well, be able to reflect that across there and have both update automatically when you would go through that. Now, one last step here for the initial setup for this motor is that we want to set a body up along the casing for the outside of the motor and some bumper stops here. So again, we're just going to come in and be able to work with this around this part in the same way that we would anything else. We're just going to start with the sketch and then recognize the geometry of the body so that if the motor body changes as well, when we build out our bumpers on the side, it's going to recognize where those walls are at and be able to update easily for us. So we'll go ahead and activate our sketch now and just do a simple extrude to build out that bumper. And once we're happy with that, then we could send this off to whoever would be working on it next or do whatever the next step in that process is. In our case here, we're going to say that now maybe we are going to be receiving an updated version of this motor. So we're going to have to make some changes to that possibly and be able to work with those changes. But again, thanks to the Unite technology capabilities, as well as some of that copy geometry functionality, if there are any changes down the line, it's going to be easy for us to deal with. And when it comes to managing that and making sure that we're going through the proper channels for things like changes and workflows on the Windchill side, it's going to be very easy for us to do that. So we're just going to bring back in that assembly and open it back up. And we now have it with a new motor. As you can see, we've got some outdated features and it is recognizing that from that copied geometry. So it recognizes that both the walls and the cuts are no longer in alignment with where we want. And from that, we could easily then, choose to manually move some of those features if we would want, but we can also isolate that down using some of the copy geometry capability of advanced assembly, isolate it, see what has changed, and then decide whether or not we want it to update to what that new version is. In our case, we say, yeah, we just want to move those cuts. So we'll say update. And just like that, we've got those moved over into their new locations. But that's really the idea with Unite technology, is to be able to bring the components in that might not be native Creo files and utilize them in your assemblies and your designs anyway. When it comes to making changes, again, you can use flexible modeling to be able to recognize some of those features and make fast and easy edits. And then you can utilize some of the update capabilities to push changes and make easy updates inside of there. Now, to the idea of being able to actually manage this data, you could, of course, check in a mixed assembly from Creo, but let's say you're not using Creo entirely, or you are using more than one CAD tool like SolidWorks. Well, Windchill will still work as a tool to be able to manage all of that. If we come over here to actual SolidWorks now, we could instead say, all right, I'm going to be working with the SolidWorks part, but I'm just going to work with it in SolidWorks as opposed to Creo today. Well, I can still directly from here go into my Windchill environment, browse into my different contexts of information, find the folder with the object or the CAD piece in this case that I'm looking for, and directly from here be able to open that. Now, once I've opened up a component here, you're going to see that we have a PTC Windchill tab. So this gives you the ability to be able to do all the normal Windchill functionality that you would want, be able to check in, check out, have revision controls on that data. Make sure that only the people who are supposed to have access to it and be able to see it can see it. It's going to run all that functionality the same way as it would with any other component. Now, when we do the checkout here, it's going to alert us to tell you, hey, this has successfully been checked out and you're good to start doing your work inside of the system. And because of that, we'll say, okay, we're going to go ahead for today and just reduce the size or change the size on this foot pad here. And after we've changed the design a little bit and we like the new foot pad that we've placed on this, on the foot plate, we might want to change the color as well, make it a little bit more noticeable for after we've checked it back in, some of the changes that we've made here. And it's going to bring in all of that detail just like it would for anything else. It can also utilize any additional information that you might want to bring in. So if you had material components, for example, or any other attributes that you assign inside of SolidWorks, it can store and manage all of that inside of Windchill, just like it would for any other type of CAD. And I should note that this is true not just for SolidWorks, but for other CAD tools on the market as well. Windchill can work with them and bring this information like a description or like the materials directly in and store those as attributes. Now that we have our attributes set and we like the changes that we've made to the component, we can go ahead and say, I want to check this in. It's going to launch the check-in wizard for us. We could bring in any additional components if we wanted. So just like in Creo, how you could associate a drawing inside of Windchill and manage that, with SolidWorks, you can also bring in any associated components, any associated material, and check that all in. Now, when we check this in, we're going to get, again, those messages alerting us whether or not this has been successful and if there's been any problems. And now inside of this system, we would be able to go through and take a look at those updates that we were going for. So if we look at the foot plate here, we can see that we have this blue foot plate in our case to that update. And we also have it set to have this neutral file format here as an attachment. And any of those details that we would have created, so any additional comments that we would have put in, the material you can see is set to aluminum, and all of that searchable inside of the system and easily manageable. Now, the relationship between Windchill and SolidWorks also allows you to push information back in the other direction as well. So for example, if we had a drawing, we can have that drawing related to the actual CAD object and be able to bring those up, as well as be able to push those through maybe a workflow together so that you can see their relationship. But we can also push information and attributes from Windchill down into SolidWorks. So if I create a new column inside of this table, I could say I want to bring in some properties, choose whatever properties it is that I'm interested in, and it will fill that table in for me. And now we could check that back into Windchill. It would be associated again to that SolidWorks part inside of there, utilizing that WT part functionality where it holds the associations between the data to really give you full fluid flexibility to have, as I've mentioned earlier, multi-CAD BOM. You could have a SolidWorks BOM, an NX BOM, some other capabilities there, and manage it inside of a system that's going to give you full iteration and version control and bill of materials management, along with a lot of extended capability for other functionality that you might want in terms of product lifecycle management. So just to touch on a little bit of what all we saw today. What this can really do for you is, number one, allow you to, if you would like, stop relying on third-party solutions, be able to directly bring those files into Creo or into Windchill and manage them and work with them. Reduce IT costs by being able to simplify down that training and the number of tools that you have to manage, as well as be able to help streamline product development processes and increase engineering efficiency on both sides by being able to have all of that data stored in one place and giving you the ability to flexibly work with that data between different tools in the CAD side. Ultimately leading to multi-CAD collaboration, either internally or externally, and the ability to stop spending so much time doing translations or recreations of that data because it's in a format that you're not used to working with or that you can't manage or whatever it would be. And lastly, then have increased engineering productivity because your engineers are going to be spending more time really doing design work as opposed to focusing on going back and slowly pushing in updates, reconstraining in an updated version from a vendor or a supplier, and focus on what they should be doing. So I'll stop here and see if there's any questions in the room.
Thanks, Cody. We actually have a couple questions. The first one being from Bethany Runyon, and her question is, can Windchill automatically make representations and other outputs slash associations with SolidWorks files?
Yes, the visualization capabilities are still the same as it would be for other CAD types. You can have it automatically set up to create representations whenever you would check in the object, so it could create that visualization, as well as in the example I showed, we had a neutral file. So you could set up publishers to automatically publish both associative parts, or I should say associative files, and those visualizations, or you could choose to manually do it depending on what your workflow would be and what's most useful for your team.
Great, thank you. The next question is coming from Alex McNabb, and their question is, when you output in a different file type from Creo, does it keep the feature tree?
So much like whenever you import from, or not import, but open as the SolidWorks or the NX or the CATIA, because the kernel differences, the output is not going to be able to give them the full feature tree whenever they open it up in the other tool. What that's really allowing you to do is when you share that with whoever it is you're sending it to, you're making sure that they're not going to have any problems opening it, that they're not going to have any conversion failures, and that they don't have to spend the time converting it. So while they're not going to get that full feature tree, it is still going to make it much more accessible for them and easier for them to see and use.
Okay, thank you. There also was another question that just came in. And it is, when using Windchill and SolidWorks, is there a local workspace set up as with Creo and Windchill?
Yes, you can set up a space that's essentially what we would almost call your desk inside of Windchill. So you have Windchill cabinets and Windchill common space, I believe is the current terminology they're using for it. And so the things that are in your workspace are only visible to you, and you could have something essentially checked out from Windchill, which would be the common space, and you would have it in your workspace, and you could save changes multiple times. You could go through, open it up in SolidWorks, make some changes, save it back to your workspace, open it back up, make some more changes, save it back into your workspace. And then once you're done for the day, then check it back into Windchill from your workspace. And at that point, everyone would see all the changes that you've made.
All right, thank you. I think that answers that. It looks like there are no more questions in the chat box. So just as a reminder, I highly encourage you all to subscribe to our YouTube channel as we have previous Creo, MathCAD, and Windchill webinars and tutorials. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter as well to be updated on any upcoming events, webinars, and exclusive deals from PTC. Once again, thank you all for attending and have a great rest of your day.